Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It's November the 24th, 2020, and I am Cutler, and we're here on the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast and the broadcast and this Let's Talk to Cutler platform. Of course, I am here, so thankful on this Tuesday. We're in the holiday and the Thanksgiving season, and you all know I only have 1,800 seconds. So as you're coming in and we're going to chat, I only have 1,800 seconds. I'm with you in your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, whatever space you've allowed me to share. I'm thankful for sharing that space with you. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I look forward to our time together. I only got 1,800 seconds, so I have to make every minute matter, make it meaningful, and make every second significant. Listen, we're basing our conversation on this book, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. If you don't have it, go on over to Amazon and get it. Go over to gbcutler.com and get it. Meanwhile, as you are logging in and chiming in, do me a favor, go ahead and click the thumbs up down there. It lets YouTube know that you like the content, that you enjoy the conversations, that you enjoy the discussions. Also, if you're new, please go ahead and subscribe. And after you subscribe, click on that little bell. It just lets you know whenever I'm on, whenever I'm uploading new content. Now, let me take a look and see who our LTTC VIPs are for the evening. Let's see who our LTTC VIPs are for the evening as we prepare for these 1,800 seconds. So let's see how they turn out. Let's see how these 1,800 seconds turn out. I want to just let you know what we're going to talk about. I want to know, when was the last time you did a self-value? When was the last time you evaluated yourself and you decided that you were going to try to figure out your net worth? And how did you determine your net worth? And how accurate were you when you determined your net worth? And then I want to know this: what do you do when you don't know the answer to a question that someone might have posed? What do you do when you don't know the answer to a question that someone might have posed? And then, the all important question: how often do you use the words hate and love? How often do you use the words hate and love? Well, again, we only have 1,800 seconds. We're going to talk about it in a few moments. I'm just going to chat up the people and see who our LTTC VIPs are for the evening. And I'll just chat you up. I'll shout you out in just a moment. But meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look. At our quotes for November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, because that's how we do. Every Tuesday we read Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then every Thursday we're going to read our Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And of course, this Saturday is all day your way. And you can use that for a conversation starter, part of your meditation, whatever you want to do. All right. I'm so thankful that you all are joining me, and I'll shout out our VIPs in just a moment. But to go ahead and get us kicked off and go ahead and get us started, let's take a look at our quote for November 22nd. And our quote for November 22nd is a very interesting one. And that is the reason why I asked you, when was the last time you decided or tried to determine what your net worth was? How did you try to decide what your net worth was? And were you accurate with taking a look at your net worth? All right, those are the questions. Let's look at the quote. The quote says, "Your value to God has less to do with how important you are and more to do with how importunate you are." That is one of my favorite words. I want to read that again. Your value to God has less to do with how important you are and more to do with how importunate you are. And when I wrote this, you all, I wrote this because I thought about how we sometimes miscalculate our value. I thought about how we think our value is based upon our status in life, how many people we know, how many friends we have on social media, how many circles or networks we are a part of, how many degrees we have obtained, how much wealth we've generated, and who our parents and grandparents were. And it concerned me that your value is not necessarily and not only determined based on who you are or your status in life, but your value is sometimes based on what you are able to do with your life. It's not always about where you are and where you land, but many times your value is about how you get there and how you land, not necessarily where you are, where you land, but it has everything to do so much with how you get there and how you land. Because you see, I would rather, I don't know about you, but I would rather travel 8 miles with a person of integrity that nobody knows rather than 800 miles with a person who has no morals and no scruples, but everybody knows. Yes, I get it. I understand, and I know that 800 miles is a lot farther, but that's sometimes an extra 972 miles that you spend with somebody who's vexing your spirit. So I really, you all know, I want to inspire those of us who sometimes feel that we are less, those of us who don't think that we belong, those of us who sometimes assess our value based on how we think we measure up to other people. But we're not doing that anymore. I had a conversation with my oldest brother. He said, I'm going to correct some things in 2021. Well, I'm going to steal that phrase from him. We are correcting some things here at the end of 2020, going into 2021. Because for some people, it costs a whole lot more to go 8 miles than it did to go 800. I'm not saying that this is true about everybody, but for some people who went 800 miles, all they had to do, not to belittle their circumstances, but for some of them, all they had to do was to hop on a plane, a train, or a bus and leave the driving up to other people. But for some folk who only went 8 miles, they had to step out walking by foot. They had to take picks and shovels and axes, and they ended up traveling through a forest. They may have had to go through rough terrain where animals and enemies were waiting to attack. They might have had to camp out in the storms of life. But something down on the inside caused them to have the fortitude and the wherewithal and the perseverance to keep going. And maybe they only made it 8 miles. But I'd rather go 8 miles with that person of integrity rather than travel 800 miles with a person who has no scruples and no morals. That's just me. Because you see, this thing and this thing called life is not always about how important you are, but it's about how importunate you are, you all. And importunate means having the ability to persist, to endure, to forge ahead, to push when everything else seems to be pushing back. And I want to remind us, I want to remind some of us today that when you start to look at your value again, look at your ability to endure, your ability to survive, your ability to maintain. Look at your ability to be consistent and to keep going in light of, and many times in spite of. So your value is not based on your status or how important you think you are, but it's about how importunate you are, how you persist. And for some of us, it's so good to see you all. It's so good to see you all this evening. And for some of us who have joined the conversation today, we misevaluated ourselves and we incorrectly calculated our value because we forgot to take into consideration not how important we are, but how importunate we are. How were we about persisting? And so the next time you get ready to do a self-assessment or self-valuation and you're tempted to miserably underweigh yourself, I want you to remember this conversation that we held on November the 24th. And I want you to remember that we had this conversation in the middle of a pandemic, one where you decided that you would buckle down and see this thing through. I'm trying to inspire us this evening. I want you to remember that we had this conversation on the heels of one of the most adversarial political races we've ever had in the history of this country, but you survived. I want you to remember that we had this conversation in the middle of one of the most racially charged moments in modern history, but we survived, you all. That's being importunate. I want you to remember this conversation that we had in the middle of a health crisis that has killed more Americans than even the Vietnamese War. I want you to remember when you get ready to reevaluate and reassess your value again, that you were resolute, and that you were persistent and you were importunate about seeing this thing through. So I don't care if they go 1,000 miles and we go only one. Your value to God is no less than theirs. I hope I'm helping somebody. God knows I'm just trying to help save somebody's life. The story is told you all about workers who went out into the field. One worked for 2 hours, I'm paraphrasing, one worked for 2 hours, one worked for 5 hours, one worked for 8 hours, but they got the same thing. They were considered to be of equal value. Why? Because the employer understood that value is It's not always determined based on where you end up. Value is determined based on how you get there. You understand, when you take a ruler and going from 1 inch to 5 inches, the measurement is always going to be the same. But we never know what a person's journey looked like getting from point A to point B. We never know the struggles that they had to endure. We never know the hurdles that they had to jump over. We never know the mountains that they had to dig through, or the gutters or the trenches or the storms that they had to wade out. So when you get ready to evaluate yourself, you make good and sure that you don't base it on something that's called superficial importance, but you dig down deep on the inside and you give thanks for being an importunate person. Your value to God has less to do with how important you are and more to do with how importunate you are. You all know we are reading from Billboards to Better, 366 daily sources of motivation and inspiration along the highway of life. If you don't have it, run on over to Amazon and get it. Go on over to gbcutler.com and get it. Do me a favor, if you haven't done so, go ahead and click that thumbs up to just show YouTube that you like the content of our conversation. Let me just shout out our LTTC VIPs for this evening. They are Annie, Yvonne, and Nisi. It's so good to see all of you all. It's good to see everybody in this Thanksgiving season, November the 24th. Let's go on to our reading for November 23rd. All right, let's go to November 23rd. And it says, my faith has an answer, even when my intellect doesn't. My faith has an answer, even when my intellect doesn't. I chuckle when I look at that, when I reread that. Yes, I wrote it, but I chuckle when I read it because, you all, I remember having a conversation one day, and the person who was talking with me was surprised by my inability this particular day to form a response that was based on fact. I'll tell you a little bit about me. When I was growing up, many people considered me to be this young intellectual. And as I got older, I guess it was a compliment. And as I got older, they credited me with having a modest amount of intelligence. So I think it may have been shocking that I didn't try to come up with an answer. Not for this particular person. I just didn't try to come up with an answer at all. I didn't suggest that I would do some research and then follow up later. I didn't ask for a moment to, can you let me think about it? I didn't do that. But I responded that there were some things that my faith will answer when my intellect can't. Why am I talking about that? Why did I put that in the book? I put that in the book for those of us who struggle with always feeling as though we have to have an answer. Always feeling like I've got to give a response that is accurate, that is correct. I know you all, we love having all the answers. I used to pride myself in being resourceful. In other words, if I didn't know the answer, I knew how to find the answer. I was going to go and get the answer. I knew how to get the answer. But you all know what? These days, I don't mind not knowing. I just don't. I've said it before, and I'll say it here in our conversation this evening, that I don't need to know the pages of the book as long as I know the author. So these days, I'm comforted. I've gotten older, I guess, but I'm comforted and I am content in those moments when, although my mind may not know the answer, my heart knows the one who holds the answer. And as we're going through, as we're dealing with so many other things in life, we don't need to know all the answers. And when people challenge you, just say, I don't know. There is nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. So you all, let me just give you a page out of my book, no pun intended. But I don't fluster myself, I don't frustrate myself, and I don't put myself through any unnecessary mental exercises when I don't know the answer. I just don't know. I've reached the resolve that if I don't know, I just don't know. I hope I'm helping somebody. And I'm okay with knowing that there are some things that I will never know. And guess what, you all? Because me as a person of faith, when my intellect runs out, my faith kicks into overdrive. Yes, sirree. You will never find me at a place where I don't have a response. I may not have the answer that you're looking for, but I got a response because when my intellect runs out, my faith kicks in. And I don't need to know, for example, we're in this pandemic and people are wondering, you know so much, you're so spiritual and all this kind of stuff. Well, when is this stuff going to end? Guess what? I don't need to know when this pandemic is going to end, and neither do you, my friends. All I need to know is that wherever I am, God is there with me. And when he gets ready for it to end, it will end. I'll do my part. Yes, I will do my part to stay safe and stay sane. I'll do my part to keep my head up and keep my hopes up. I'll do all that. But in the midst of those situations where I don't know the answer, guess what? My hope is built on nothing less. I'm just trying to encourage all of us this evening because guess what? We are approaching this season of Thanksgiving and we're going to reflect, and some people are going to become depressed, but I want to attack that depression before it ever settles in. When is this going to end? I don't know when it's going to end, but what I do know is that wherever I am, God is there with me. So I have hope. Yes, I do. So my hope is built on nothing less. And then one hymn writer said, my faith has found a resting place. And when your faith finds a resting place, you can sing the rest of that song, the words of that song that simply say, I need no other argument. I need no other plea. Y'all, I'm really just trying to help save somebody's life and trying to encourage us. We're getting ready for this Thanksgiving season, and so many things play with and plague your mind. But this one thing right here, I do know my faith has an answer even when my intellect doesn't. Absolutely not. And let me give us this nugget. Let me share this nugget with all of us this evening, especially for people who like to challenge us and challenge you in your spirituality and your spiritual journey and all of that. Let me help those of us who like to engage in those conversations with people who challenge us about our spiritual journey. I just stopped doing that. I don't do it. So I'm not talking about those people who really want help and they want insight about your belief and the scriptures that you follow. I'm not talking about those, but I'm talking about those people who like to tell us how to live. May I give you this nugget? Out of my 1,800 seconds, may I share this nugget with you? Stop arguing with people who have no idea about your journey. Just don't do it. You have more peace of mind when you stop arguing with people. Because here is what I know, here's what I've discovered in my over half a century on this earth. You cannot rationalize what can only be spiritualized. And my faith is spiritual. And there are times I walk when I don't know what's around the curve. And I don't need to know what's around the curve as long as I know who made the curve and who's standing on the other side of the curve. So there are times when my faith has the answer, even when my intellect don't. Why am I walking along this road that is riddled with so many hurdles? Why am I going through this journey that has so many bumps and bruises? Why am I dealing with trying to navigate this thing called life when there's so many ups and downs and disappointments and frailties and frivolities? Why? Because my faith has found a resting place. And when my faith has found a resting place, I need no other argument. I need no other plea. The hymn writer wrote, it's enough that Jesus died and that he died for me. It's so good to see all of you in the room chatting here with me this evening. I'm so thankful that you all are here with me. Make sure that you come back and join me Thursday, because this Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm going to do something extra special just for you all. I promise you. All right. Please, if you haven't done so, go ahead and do a thumbs up on this conversation. You all know we are basing our conversation on this book, Billboards to Better, 366 days, 366 daily sources of motivation and inspiration along the highway of life. Sometimes I'm so overwhelmed by the fact that I wrote this until I just have to glance at the title. Yeah, yes, I do. I really, really do. But I'm so thankful that you all are sharing this space with me. Let me say this again, 1,800 seconds, I got to move on to the next one. But as I go to this next quote for November the 24th, I'm going to ask you, how often do you use the words hate and love. I'm curious. Tell me if you're chatting here with me. Let me know as you're chatting how often or do you use the words hatred and or love? Do you use those words very often? Are you very selective with how you use those words? And do you allow people to use those words as it pertains to you? As it pertains to you, do you allow people to use those words? I want to ask you this. Let me read this quote first. It says, hatred on any level, hatred on any level is hatred on every level. Love on restricted levels is love on no level. Can I paraphrase that? If you hate just a little, it really means you hate a lot. If you love just a little, and you really don't love at all. All right? Go ahead and click that thumbs up so I can go ahead. We can go ahead and talk about this quote. If you all haven't done so, do me a favor. Please make sure that you've subscribed. Make sure that you share this. And if you subscribe, make sure you click on that bell so that you can be notified whenever I post any more content or whenever I go live. All right. But let me talk about this for just a moment, this hatred and this love. I promise you all that I wrote this long before we reached this place in our social climate. I wrote this long before we got to where we are today. I really did. I wrote this as I considered so often how people like to fragment and compartmentalize their ability to like and dislike. I'll make that make sense. For people who have a seemingly incredible ability to draw the lines between when they're going to love me and when they're going to hate me, when they're going to tolerate you and when they want to throw you away. That's where I'm going. Let me see if I can make this make clear. Let me see if I can make this make sense because I find it unbelievable. I find it incredulous that people can love a part of me but hate the other part. That's why I said hatred on any level is hating on every level. Let me make this plain, you all. If I make a pot of soup and you say to me, I love your soup, but I don't like that one ingredient, then you don't like my soup because that ingredient is a part of my soup. If you say to me, I love your family, man, I love your family, but I don't love that one person, then guess what? You don't love my family because that person helps to compose my entire family. If you say to me, I love you as long as you don't challenge me or make me rethink and consider my behavior, then you don't love me because that's what I'm called to do. That's a part of my journey. You see, you can't love everything about me but not like my southern accent. You just can't because my southern accent is a part of the everything about me. You all get this. My position these days, my position these days is that if you're going to love me, love me. And if you're going to hate me, then just hate me. I don't have time to be your exceptions to your self-imposed, your exceptions of your self-imposed rules about who you love or who you hate. Because if you hate anything about me, then you hate all of me. Because when I show up, I am going to show up with all that I am, all that I present, all that I be. It is impossible for me to leave the piece of me that you don't like home while you're speaking to me. Impossible. And guess what? In 2020, the end of 2020, going to 21, as my oldest brother said, we're going to change some things in 2021. But guess what? We're going to start changing them right here. We're going to change the conversation because it's too mind-boggling for me to conjure up a part of me that does not exist just to make you comfortable. I'm trying to help my family members and friends and brothers and sisters here on this platform. Don't you try to conjure up a piece of you that does not exist just to make other people comfortable. Absolutely not. You look at them and say, listen, if you're going to hate me, just tell me that you hate me, either through your words or your deeds or both. And as we say in the South, because y'all know I'm not just from the South, but from the country, as we say in the country, if you don't want to fool with me, then just don't fool with me, but don't fool with me ever. But let me be abundantly clear. When you hate a part of God's creation, then you are incapable of appreciating the totality of what God created. And I'm not talking, some people say, well, you can love the person but hate the deeds. Yes, I absolutely agree. And I'm not talking about actions, behaviors, practices, or deeds, but I'm referring to people and the essence of who they are. I cannot boast about loving God's creation, but let me see, but then have a disdain for people with freckles. I cannot do that. And when it comes to people, as a practical matter, something like, you don't get to love me and hate my brother. Absolutely not. Mm-mm. You don't get to do that. And I won't give you the privilege of compartmentalizing and fragmenting your love within my family. That's not how it works. Absolutely not. Not with me, because it baffles me how people can allow. You all, I'm not fussing, but I'm trying to motivate you all when you don't let people manipulate you and manipulate the things that you are part of, because people would do that. That's what this is all about. This is about not subjecting yourself to the manipulation that people try to demonstrate and execute within your circle, within your family, and within the things that you are part of. You just tell them, if you're gonna hate me, if you're gonna hate any part of me, my family, my social circle, then hate us all. Just tell them, because yeah, it baffles me how people can allow themselves to be to it baffles me how people can allow themselves to be loved and the rest of the family to be hated. Absolutely. I'm never doing that. People who deal with that type of person, you all might not like where I'm going with this, but people who deal with that type of person who can allow you to love them and hate the rest of the family, those people might want to be careful, because they just might be sleeping with the enemy. I want to challenge us to be careful how we use the words love and hate. Because, if I had to give a parable or a metaphor, I would simply say this: you can't love the grape but hate the grapevine. Dr. Maya Angelou said, because I am human, nothing in the human experience is ever foreign to me. One of my favorite quotes. So before we use the words love and hate, let's consider how much we identify with the thing that we say we love. Let's consider how much we identify with the thing that we say we hate. That's why I'm telling you all, because if you love me, then let your love speak every time you address me. Stop letting people display love and hate, and then dangle a yo-yo in front of you, dangle you on a yo-yo. Stop letting people be duplicitous, talking out of both sides of their mouth and being double-minded how they interact with you, and then they expect you to teeter-totter like you're on a seesaw. Stop letting people smile in your face, you all, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and stab you in the back on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and then flip a coin on Sunday to decide how they're going to treat you. Don't do that. I hope I'm helping somebody, because we talked about that word importunate, stamina, and persistence, and that. Because if you show me love and hate, both of those, you don't get to dictate which one of those I respond to. So when I respond to you as if you hate me, don't play coy and act as if you never demonstrated hate. You demonstrated both. I just chose to respond to the hate. Your restricted love tells me there is no love. And your hatred on the smallest level tells me that you hate me on every level. You get to decide when people are duplicitous how you're going to respond. But in terms of how we behave, those of us who are spending these Tuesdays and Thursdays together, we remember hatred on any level is hatred on every level. And love on restricted levels is love on no level. We also understand that my faith has an answer even when my intellect doesn't. And we certainly know that your value to God has less to do with how important you are and more to do with how importunate you are. I want to end our conversation this evening by sharing a brief poem with you, one that I hope recharges you, Because sometimes as we're going through life, and we're in the 11th month, and some of us have been in a quarantine and restricted mode, and we feel like we're getting tired, and the dance is ending and all that kind of things. We were going in at first, so this is going to end, and we were okay, and we were dancing, but we were standing on our feet, and we've gotten a little tired. And so I want to share this poem with you. I think I got it right. This is from my second book, Thoughts Keep Flowing. And the name of this poem is Change the Pace and Keep Dancing. The leaves keep falling. The rivers keep flowing. The thoughts keep going. The pace changes. Change the situation. Rearrange the station. I changed my mind and the dance resumes. You all, don't let anybody change your ability to dance. In this thing called life, listen to the music and dance. And even when it sounds like the music has stopped, you keep dancing. Change the pace if you have to, but keep dancing. This has been 1800 Seconds on this platform. I'm so thankful that you allowed me to share the space in your living room, your bedroom, your car, your kitchen, whatever space you've allowed me to share. I am so very thankful. Our LTTC VIPs for the evening again, Annie, Yvonne, and Nisi. It's so good to have you, but it's so good to see all of you, Linda and Auntie and Sylvia and Cornelia, all of you. It's so good to see you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell people to come and join us Thursday, which is Thanksgiving. We're going to have something extra special for you. Until then, take care. And I'm sending love through the airways. Until next time, let's continue building community, maintaining connectivity, keep your heads up, your hopes up, stay safe, and stay sane. Take care.